Hey guys, this will be video 9 for the how to design build a custom guitar. Sometimes using Stuart McDonald templates, and if you haven't seen any of the early videos, check out video number 1 or 2. I might have used the templates all the way up into video 3, but after a while, you take the training wheels off and you just start finishing your project. So it's been I think it's been about 10 or 11 days since I've done a video for this guitar. And there's a part of me that's like, I want to say how to build a guitar. There's also a part of me that wants to say how not to build a guitar. And I could almost say, don't paint a black guitar if you want it to be shiny, because this thing has worked me to death. But it's really beautiful. Probably has about 23 coats. But when I say coats, I mean like super, super thin. And one thing that's really cool from a tonal standpoint is that I noticed that the more it got encapsulated, it got a more pure tone about it, because I've had this mocked up for about 3 days now, working through some of the bugs and stuff, but and also just getting the Floyd Rose set up. But what was I talking about? Oh yeah, black. Don't paint your guitar black unless you want it to be flat, because it's really really tough. But nonetheless, it's really beautiful. It's coming together, and it's so cool. I love this loud white parchment, I should say, offset with everything. I'll do a flyby in a minute, but I'll do a real brief flyby right now in case I forget. But we went with I say we, this was the client's idea to go with this tuner right here. And I got to tell you, they are kick ass. They look really, really good. And, and also being the Grover, this was hilarious. Well, let me finish what I was going to say. They look exceptional, but they're not just a pretty face. To give you an idea, as long as you string them up properly, just like a traditional guitar. I was doing some, not dive bombing, but I was doing some real heavy whammy bar work a little while ago. And in case I forget, this fretboard is still not oiled or polished. But I was doing some really heavy, not dive bomb work, as I said, but I was doing some heavy vibrato work as I was getting everything adjusted. And I thought that I had the Floyd Rose locked. I did not. I did not have the Floyd Rose locked, and it stayed in tune. It was amazing. So that's a testament to the Grovers. Those are exceptional tuners. So anyway, I will do a better flyby in a little while, because I just want to knock a few things out as far as the build and talk about the Floyd Rose and the setup. And it's weird. It actually reminded me of, and I was thinking of this a couple of nights ago when I first started setting it up, because I haven't built a Floyd Rose. No, I did. It was about a year ago. But nonetheless, and when you're building a guitar with a Floyd Rose, that's especially a floating Floyd Rose. That's some really high tech stuff. And right now, I've got the tail of this one, not intentionally, but the tail of this Floyd Rose is just a little bit low. So what I need to do is loosen up these two screws right here. And I'm not digressing. I'm going to get back to what I was going to talk about the Floyd Rose. But you'll just loosen these two screws just about a half a turn, and then come up here. Obviously, you'll want to have the Floyd locking nut undone, and then retune it. And then what you're doing, you're working between this neutral balance point of this string tension and the spring tension, in order to get your Floyd Rose to be pretty much perfectly um, um, parallel with the surface. When I say parallel, I'm talking about like the bottom, or just, floating consistently. You don't want it diving up, because then you'll start having issues with the string height. But if anything, you would want the tail of the Floyd Rose to be just a little bit low. But I would prefer the Floyd Rose be about right about right there. That's where it needs to be. So I need to let a little more spring tension off that, and then we'll go from there. But nonetheless, it's really beautiful. Such a beautiful guitar. And the cool thing about it is I've got to be so careful. But the cool thing about it is it's not heavy, but man, it's not light, and it just feels. We were Rick and I'm Rick. I'm sorry. I built a guitar for a guy by the name of Rick a long time ago. James and I were talking about this guitar, and I was like, man, this is like a Ferrari when you're setting up the Floyd Rose, and that's where I'm going to go full circle and talk about the Floyd Rose. Really humbled me about 3 or 4 days ago, and it reminded me how incredibly technical it is not only to build a guitar to receive a Floyd Rose, but to make certain that it's perfectly centered, but also to make certain that all of these critical dimensions are just pretty much perfect. Like the height of the nut, I did have to shim under it with a piece of maple veneer, but there's a possibility I'll be able to pull that out because my strings are still a little bit high. And I'm not digressing, but honestly, back to the Floyd Rose, it really humbled me, and it made me realize uh, also the technical proficiency, I guess, would be the statement of the guitar player is really pushed to the limits, and it makes you appreciate guys like Joe Satriani. Because when I say Joe Satriani because he plays a floating Floyd Rose. There's a lot of guys out there that play the Floyd Rose that's bottomed out on the body, and all they're doing is just diving off of the body. But then when it comes back up, it just rests on the top of the body. But the floating Floyd Rose setup, this is pretty much the it's like the I guess like the F-14, or the Fighting Falcon or something like that of the guitars. But and what I was going to say, James and I were talking about, man, this is like a Ferrari, and not only is it like a Ferrari building it, it's going to be like a Ferrari playing it as well, uh, because it just is. It's real hypersensitive, hypersensitive. So anyway, let me check the time. I might. I guess I'll continue with the video. I'm afraid I might have rambled a little bit too much there. So if I've gone too far into the video, I'm just going to erase this and start over and kind of shorten it up. 7 minutes and 51 seconds. I guess that's not too bad. And I apologize if I wasted anybody's time, but I don't think I did. I mean, I was just kind of rambling on about the whole humbling of the guitar. And this always happens to me when I build a guitar that's different from what I've typically been building. So don't let them deceive you just because they're a flat top guitar. And you know, well, this is a pitched neck, but if you had a flat top guitar and a bolt-on neck that was flat and all that stuff, that'd be a little bit easier. But and speaking of that, I'll just keep going off the cuff here. We hit our dimensions spot on with the 2-degree pitch connected at the 19th fret, and the fretboard is just ever so slightly under a quarter of an inch thick, not much, maybe a 64th of an inch. But once the neck joined the body and it was pretty much flush, I did lower the neck, I did lower the lower portion of the neck down in the body, maybe a 32nd of an inch. So I ended up planing a little bit of the, well, you can see it right there. I ended up from that point right there out to right there, which is the 19th fret right there. Uh, it was on a bit of a pitch. So that allowed the whole fret, the whole neck and the whole fretboard and the whole playing surface to drop down a little bit. And what was cool about that, it allowed me to hit it spot on up here with a 5/8 inch string height. I mean, it's just positively perfect. I think it's like 15 millimeter. Yeah, I measured it a little while ago. What I'm talking about, in case you guys are just coming on board, because I spent a lot of time talking about the critical importance of the pitch of this neck back here. But if you had just put it in at 2 degrees, but you didn't drop it down in the body a little bit, meaning this is flat up here, and then once it hits that point right there, it goes ahead and starts tapering a little bit. Uh, you might have gotten just a little bit high, unless you were just very serious about. Yeah, it's 16 millimeter, and it's just right at 5/8 of an inch. So uh, what would have happened if I hadn't have dropped it down in the body a little bit? This might have been a little bit higher than was necessary, because right now I'm able to get major positive bending on it. So okay, so just read between the lines, but just know that when you start building, a guitar like this, you got to factor in a whole bunch of stuff. It wouldn't be that bad of it wouldn't be that difficult if you're doing hardtail, but when in the ABR1 bridge, but when you're doing the Floyd, that's what I meant by, man, this thing's a Ferrari, if not a Lamborghini. And I don't think I finished the story when I first started talking. It reminded me, I know I didn't, I forgot. When I think I was like 20 years old, and I was living over in Birmingham, Alabama, and I kind of had the bug for a sports car, and I was out tooling around, going to the car lots, and there was this used car lot that always had really cool sports cars. Well, sure enough, I pulled up one day, and they had a 1986 Porsche 911 Turbo Whale's Tail, all black, jet black, jet black, jet black, black leather interior. I didn't even think they'd let me test drive it. But they did. They let me test drive it. And I got to tell you, when I got back to the car lot, my legs were shaking. I was so scared from that car of what the power that it had. And not just the power, but it was like a terrifying power. It was just, you just got into it, and you just felt the whole car wanting to just scream and come alive. Well, that reminded me of that 911 when I started playing this the other night, about how hypersensitive it was. And it doesn't hide anything. It's very vocal. And I would play it a little bit, but I know I tried this earlier. I did a little bit of recording, and it sounded really bad, because these cheap phones are just not meant to pick up the recording. But I'll try it. We'll give it a whirl. Get that out of the way. Nah, I can't. Typically what happens, I've tried it a lot of times in the videos, it just gets real warbly. It almost sounds like you've got a wah-wah pedal plugged up. But hopefully before the video series end, once I get the pickups in it, I'll try to do a sound demo of the guitar. But it sounds unbelievable. And what's cool is when you play it acoustically, you don't just hear the like when you play an electric guitar, you kind of hear it softly. You literally hear the guitar even out of the head, in the headstock area. You hear the guitar up here, and you hear the body. It's just bizarre. And now that doesn't surprise me, because that's contributed to the fact that I did an exceptional joint. I got to watch that headstock. I can't bang it. But by doing an exceptional join with your tenon, your mortise and tenon, and then epoxying that in, and making certain that, as I say, all 7 sides are perfectly glued and epoxied, then it's acting like a through body neck design. And I'm telling you, I'd put money on it all day long. I know it sounds better than a guitar that has a neck glued in with like Titebond, especially if it has any bit of slop in there. So anyway, so I'm excited about it, and my legs were shaking a little bit the other night, because it reminded me of that 911 that I drove, and I did not buy that car because I knew that I'd get killed in that thing. There was just no. It was like a cafe. I had a GSXR 750 once, and I had to sell that thing because I couldn't stay out of it. I just wanted to push it too hard. So anyway, the good thing about this, I've never heard of anybody getting killed playing an Explorer. So Should be fairly safe. So, what do we want to talk about? Let's talk about headstocks and let's talk about logos and stuff like that, and why I've got that Gibson mother of pearl on the table. Let's go ahead and knock that out, and then that way we can get it behind us. About 2 years ago, I was restoring an authentic Gibson for a guy. Oh, Rick, the guy when I mentioned the name earlier, Rick. It was a 1980 Les Paul Custom Black, and my very first video series uh, is that guitar build. I gotta be real careful. This is super fragile. There's a little mother of pearl dot right there, but his headstock in the upper part of his neck was completely gone. So I was concerned that I was going to have to do all the mother of pearl, the split diamond and all that stuff. Let's see if I can find something. Yeah, what do you know? Perfect. So I thought I was going to have to do the headstock overlay, the Gibson with the mother of pearl, the split diamond, and all that jazz. I didn't have a problem doing it myself because I knew that was an authentic Gibson, but it prompted me to look at, to go with these two different designs. Now this design here on the bottom is just a little bit fatter, and it's fine. It looks really good, and it's more close to historically accurate. But the one on the top came from China, and it's just a real nice white, pure white mother of pearl. It'd be really pretty once it has the clear coat over it. But where I'm going is, um, if this were my personal guitar and I was going to put a logo on it of some sort, I would probably go with the lighter one. Now, I'm not saying let's build a fake guitar. The reason I'm bringing this up is it prompted me to start analyzing the dimensional aspects of this logo in relation to where the tuner would be. And when I was assessing this first build right here, it's not that I was trying, and I don't put logos on my guitars, but the thing about this one is I was trying to make certain that I had this headstock big enough that visually it looked right. So I got to thinking, I thought it was awesome. I had this left over because we didn't have to use this to restore the Les Paul. He was able to get his overlay from like Germany or something like that. I think it's called Crazy Parts, and I was so thankful because it made my job easier. But I was able to use this actual logo right here to engineer. This is hell trying to hold this, to engineer my headstock when I was first laying out and building my first Explorer. Did not put a logo on there. It's not what I'm talking about. But I was able to look at it dimensionally and realize there's a mistake with this design. He's got this design too small. So I say all that to say this: if you go with the Electric Herald um, um, plans, they're fine other than the headstock. He's got the headstock is too small. I've increased the size of it close to almost an eighth of an inch taller, and it's definitely about 3/16 of an inch longer. And there's just a little bit more girth right in here, so you can see my headstock is positively, stunningly beautiful, but it's not exactly the Electric Herald headstock. And in case I forget, there's still some orange peel that's going to have to be buffed out. But when you're looking at your headstock and you're asking yourself, well, did you get it right? Well, then you can use your logo like this to determine, oh yeah, man, I hit it spot on. It's perfect. Now the funky thing about Gibson, I don't know why they do this. They kind of turn their logo, I'm exaggerating, on a real weird angle, but I don't understand why they didn't put it a little bit more straight like that right there. Or with this one, which is a little bit smaller, um, that looks really good too. And I'm talking about dimensionally, the footprint of my headstock is perfect as far as I didn't get too short or I didn't get too long. Because on a lot of the Kramer, the big man, they're big. They come out like another, probably at least 3/8 of an inch, and they're much fatter, and just really unattractive. But that's really my favorite one right there. And if I were going to do a logo of some sort, I don't understand. I say that to say this. I don't understand why Gibson put it on such an angle. It seems like it would be a little bit more straight like that. That makes sense. It's hard to hold this like that right there. Beautiful. Okay, so anyway, that's the reason I had those out. And you can use your pick guards if you were building a guitar from scratch. As I mentioned in the very front end, you could buy your truss rod cover, things like that. The nut, the obviously the bridge and the tuners and all that. The tuners obviously, because tuners can vary in dimension as well as your pick guard. If you're building a guitar from scratch, just buy a pick guard for the guitar that you're trying to replicate, and just build it. If you lay this if you had this pick guard in hand, then you could just lay it on a piece of paper and then just add whatever dimension you want around it and start laying out the footprint, and then work the neck off the center line, and then all you got to do after that is just kind of define the outer perimeter. So, and I'm gonna stop because I know I'm digressing right now. So anyway, and also the funky thing about the black, man, you can look at it and it'll get fingerprints on it. So let me put these up so I don't risk breaking them. But there's a guy and I got this off of eBay. There's a guy, I think he's in North Carolina. He is a professional vintage banjo and acoustic guitar restoration specialist. And he has these, I don't know if he gets these from Gibson or if he actually has them cut CNC. I have no idea, and I've never asked him because I didn't want to get into his business. But they're like $50, and you can use things like that to help you lay out your guitar. Okay, and obviously, I've mentioned in the very front end, I'm going to cover this again. You want to also always make certain that you go with authentic vintage um, Gibson pickup rings, because once you get your Seymour Duncan Alnico Pro slash in, then you'll want them to fit perfectly around that. And I may pull these out in a little while, but that's going to be really, really beautiful. But had you have gone online and got the discount pickup rings, they wouldn't fit these very well, and they'd be oversized. They're just everything about them. They're a little bit bigger, and even the untrained eye would be able to tell. Excuse me, that those were not vintage correct, and these are authentic Gibson. They end up being about $30 to $40 for a pair, but they come with the little pickup screws as well. So anyway, you can tell I don't have a point list to go by. Let's talk about these slash pups a little bit. These are pretty incredible, and it's really cool because I had never told James the history, but I did after he ordered these. Um, he wasn't a good friend, but he was a good acquaintance and a phenomenal guitar player in my high school. His name is Eric Dover, and Eric Dover ended up going out to California and touring with some pretty professional bands. But he ended up touring with Slash, and he co-wrote the no, I'm sorry, he wrote the lyrics for Slash's Snake Pit album. His name is Eric Dover, so check him out. So it was really cool when James ordered these pickups. He was told me that he wanted the Slash pickups. It reminded me about Eric, and Eric is still out in L.A. and really really cool guy and a phenomenal vocalist. But toured with Alice Cooper and Jellyfish, Imperial Drag, a bunch of other bands like that. But long story short, it was really cool when James said he wanted to go with the Slash pickups, because I knew they'd be sound incredible in this guitar, but also these are black nickel. So what is also black nickel? The tuners are the Grovers are black nickel as well. So this is going to be really really, and I don't want to try to slide them in there because I don't want to risk scratching anything. But I do have them out on the table because I'm probably going to do a weight analysis here in a minute. Yeah, I'll do that. and because I have no idea what this guitar weighs, and it'll be cool to find out. Now, I don't have the wiring harness connected yet, but that won't be much weight. So let's just do that. Let's go ahead and do some weight analysis, and that way I can stop talking about it. But the reason I brought up Eric is it reminded me that I've got to get in touch with that guy because of just, because, you know, maybe build him a guitar or something. Or I know I couldn't build a guitar for Slash because uh, he has the signature stuff with all these pro manufacturers, and they can't do anything outside the pros. I know I've learned a lot. You guys may watch Pete Thorne. Pete Thorne is really good about explaining how the whole signature guitar thing works. So that might be some good information for you guys. But let's see what this thing weighs, because Pete was talking about how, yeah, the Sir guitar that he plays, his signature guitar, he tries to be respectful, but also these major manufacturers, they can't tell you, hey, you can't play another guitar, you know, unless you're unless they're truly, truly sponsoring you. But if they're just building you a signature guitar, uh, there are some limitations there. I'm just going to stop talking about that because I'm not I'm not focusing on what I'm thinking, and I'm just going to start rambling. So let's do this. Let's tear this, and I'll check and see if it's in the camera. Should be good. Okay, so check this. All right, we've got a pretty much complete guitar here, other than the pickups. So this is what you can expect your custom Explorer to weigh. Go with pounds first. It's rocking a little bit. 8.412 pounds. 3,815 grams. So 8.412 pounds. I'll just set that about right there. One pickup brings it up to 8.74. Should be okay. Just, I don't want to risk it sliding off. Yeah, it should be fine. Kind of get it close to where it, maybe get it to stop rocking. This is pretty awesome, and it lets me know that I'm getting really good at estimating weights. In the very front end of this video, as I was beginning to put this build together, I think I weighed just the body and the neck in component form, and I started guesstimating that it's going to hit at about right at 9 pounds, and that's exactly what it is. It's 9.072 pounds. 4,115 grams. Okay, now it doesn't have the truss rod cover on it yet, so that might add a little bit of weight. There'll be a few more little things, but basically it's a 9-pound guitar, and that's pretty impressive for a guitar that is so big. Because as I explained to James, just understand this is not going to be a 7.5-pound Strat. Not that he was difficult or anything like that, or worried that it was going to be too heavy. But I just explained to him, I said, man, this is a big footprint. So just be prepared for it to be a 9-pound guitar, which to me, and as Steve Stevens made the statement, he said, yeah, a Les Paul at a minimum or a pro guitar needs to weigh about 8.7 to 9 pounds is the favorite weight for the bigger Gibson product. When I say bigger, I mean like the large footprint or the Les Paul. So that'd be pretty cool. And the cool thing about these the Slash pickups, being the Seymour Duncan, they're identical to the Gibson, which is the single wire, the 2-conductor wire. or one, maybe that's one conductor wire in the ground, the outer shield. So, all right, let me clean the table off a little bit, and then probably we'll just figure out how to end the video. And I hate that I tried to play it because it probably sounded like crap. And I can assure you, it does not. It sounds amazing. And yeah, I did talk about that, how vocal it was, how you could just hear the whole area reverberating. So let me pause and get the table cleaned off, organize a little bit, and think about how I want to end the video because it's getting fairly late tonight, and I want to get this uploaded here fairly soon. So let me pause. Okay, let's dive back in. And I'm just going to keep this video really casual rather than talking about anything technical at all, because I really do want to end the video fairly soon. The only thing I will say is I think if I was going to hot rod it, and I'm talking to you, James, I got to tell you, the black arm looks really incredible. Now, I'm not saying do that or don't do that, but I want to show you a bit of a mock-up here, and just let the wheels turn a little bit, because and then we'll do a flyby starting at the top. And again, this has had all of the clear coat work done, but I haven't done any buff work at all. Zilch. I have not done any buff work. I've only sanded the neck with steel wool. I shouldn't even call it sanding. Oh, and I completely forgot. I need to do this right now. Let me make certain that these are tight. Hold on. Let me pause. Well, I can do it. Yeah, I can do it like that right there, as long as I don't drop the guitar. We'll do it in real time. So just need to make certain that I don't think I've tightened these. I didn't. Even more of a testament to the fact that I don't know if that's in the camera or not. It really doesn't matter. What I'm doing is tightening up the yeah, I forgot to tighten those. I had them off a little while ago when I was doing some tweaking and stuff. But that's even more testament to the fact that the thing I was doing whammy bar work with the Floyd Rose unlocked, and I didn't even have those. I just tightened up all 6 of those screws, and it was staying in tune. So it'll stay in tune even better now. But the black nickel is where I was going with this. So just obviously, and keep in mind, James and I, we spent a lot of time talking about this whole, hey, if we do because he already had the black nickel, but we found the Floyd Rose, smoking deal there, and I suggested, hey, let's definitely break it up, the black nickel against the chrome, and then once you get down here, it'll be kind of cool because things like, let me get a good grip. Let me get a good grip on the guitar. Things like this parchment pick guard, you're eventually going to have some chrome and or stainless steel show up, like the frets are all nickel, then all of these are stainless steel. You got the chrome right there, the parchment selector cap, that's a CTS in case I forget, I'm sorry, Switchcraft. And then you come down here to the actual chrome Floyd Rose, but it has the black fine tuners, and then the black, I don't know what those are called, just these Allen head bolts. I can't think what they're called, but it kind of complements it by going with the black. And I definitely love the parchment. I actually have a black pick guard, but it is a 24 3/4 inch scale. It would not fit on here, and I do not have any more pick guard material to make a black pick guard. But I did put it on there. I didn't like it. It looked really cheap. It lost its pop, with the parchment, which defines that this truly is a 58 profile. So it's your call. We could go with a different color We could go with a black pick guard, but that's not something I could just machine off the top of my head. I'd have to order the pick guard material. I'd have to machine it, and then it'd be a nightmare. So, and personally, I think it would be too much black. But now let's look at it with the chrome. Nothing wrong with the chrome at all. It looks awesome, and it's really cool. But but again, I don't know. I don't know. The chrome looks pretty darn good. And if anything, the chrome complements all of the little nickel right there, and I mean the stainless steel. So yeah, maybe just stay with the chrome. But if anything, that'll give you an idea. If you wanted to hot rod it and change that, you might go with a black Floyd Rose later on, just the arm. Okay, so I'll just leave that on there. Now let's do a flyby again, and I'll do the front, I'll do the back, and I'll stop talking. Let me see if I can. Well, it doesn't really matter because this is going to get buffed and polished a little bit, but it bothers me when I look up there and see a fingerprint. And there's an enormous amount of oil work that I need to do on the fretboard in order to get it to darken up. Oh, and also I forgot I have not drilled these side dots, and I actually drill them obviously by hand. And then I'll go ahead and talk about this briefly. You have to seal the raw wood with thin jet glue, and then you mix up your epoxy and you tint it with your white tints, but you can tint it with some amber. Now this is just white creamy lacquer that is tinted, but you tint your epoxy, and then what are the odds I got this? And you've got your little epoxy puddle there, and then you actually drip that epoxy down in there, and you dab it in, and you make certain that you fill in the hole, and you come back the next day, and then you can shave all that off. And it is really amazing because you can tell that it's handmade, but it also shows how precise the luthier is that did it by hand and actually didn't just, press in a piece of white plastic. In other words, when you look down at this fretboard, you're going to see like a parchment colored dots at all of the marker locations, like the 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, etc., etc. Okay, so it'd be really beautiful, and this will darken up on the sides. We'll go ahead and talk about this back, and then that way I'll go to the body. That is rubbed with steel wool. It's very, very rough, but it's very close to being finished right now. And as far as the profile goes, it is a 1-inch radius jazz profile. It does round over. It is 22 millimeter thick at the first fret, and it is 25.5 millimeter thick at the 11th fret. And it feels like heaven. It reminds me of my old 60s SG that I had when I was a kid. It just feels so incredible. So, and it's also identical to that 80s Gibson that I have as well. And again, the frets have not been polished yet, meaning to a mirror reflection, but they're getting close. Well, I'll keep it this way. I'm just scared I'm going to hit the wall over there. I have a concrete wall over there, and I can't risk hitting that headstock. The black shows everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's just a part of it. And I'm really serious when I was joking at the beginning of this video. This thing has kicked my ass on a level that I had no idea was going to happen. But again, because I typically just build, player guitars that are good guitars that are set up properly, but I don't pay a lot of attention to doing really precise, shiny finish work. This was nice though. Very happy with it. We'll pull this cover off a little bit and let you see. Yeah, I'm glad I'm pulling this off. These are 550K ohms CTS potentiometers. And so in other words, they're hot. It'll be a hot little guitar. Won't be muddy at all. But anyway, that's the way I lay them out, where you have the terminals. This will be the master tone, this will be the bridge volume, and this will be the neck volume. And then your little capacitor will come in and ground out here, know, it'll be back there basically and folded back, and then that'll be it. It's real. It's a very simple wiring harness, but very effective, and it works. Now, one thing I do that they did not do on the old guitars, I just drill a minimal size hole here, and it's a little bit more work, but I feed the wire through, and then I wire the jack out here, and then just push everything in and drill the four little holes. So real simple, and that's all handmade. I know I've clarified this, but if you guys have not been following your video, you don't realize I didn't buy this plastic off of the shelf. Every bit of this had to be handmade, and I had to build the little jigs to do that. But then once you have it, then you've got it for all the guitars you build. So, but that's a tricky little build right there because all of this. Let's get that in the camera. All that bevel work has to be done by hand on the drill press. So anyway, a lot of work, an enormous amount of time goes into finishing the guitar, and it's like anything that has to be painted. You end up spending, almost think you end up spending more time doing the primer, prep, and finish paint work than you do building the whole guitar or the whole, like if you're working on a car or something, when you're restoring it. So let me take that off so I don't risk, I don't want that jamming in the table. Also, but the only thing that's a little bit odd about the Floyd Rose springs, these are a little bit softer than I was expecting. So, and I know Eddie Van Halen only ran 2 springs on his setup, but he ran an extremely light gauge string, and the springs were probably much more stiff. So if you didn't like this setup, you might go with a heavier spring. But if you do that, you're going to have to loosen these up to counterbalance all of the tension. So, and I can't get into that. That's a personal preference. But this guitar is set up with 10s, 10 to 46, which plays incredible. It's plenty slinky enough with the 25.5 inch scale. It does not need nines. If you put nines on here, it's going to be a slinky nightmare, and it's going to be just impossible. So I really recommend staying with the 10s. I typically even go all the way up to like an 11 on something like this if you're doing real hardcore heavy duty playing, like heavy rock and roll. But I've got it set up for just, you can dig in a little bit and play it pretty hard, or you can back up and play it real sweet and gentle. I've got the action just set kind of moderate. It's not crazy super low, but it's not high at all. Okay. So, I'll go ahead and do this in real time so I don't end up losing anything. Because my theory is if you're still here, you're really, really interested in all the little details about building a guitar. And I might trip up on some brilliant statement here in a minute. Something you need to consider. Well, just like talking about those springs, I would not have talked about those springs being a little bit softer than I was expecting unless I was sitting there looking at them. As soon as it hits, stop, because otherwise you'll crush your plastic. I don't know if you can hear that. It just sustains for days. And here's a little bit of that epoxy repair. I mean, lacquer repair that I was talking about. I had a little bit of a divot showing right there, and a couple of nights ago, I dripped just a little bit of lacquer, clear lacquer. I put a little bit of clear right there and a little bit of clear there. That was like 2 nights ago, and I forgot I hadn't leveled that out yet. But anyway, that ought to be enough information. I'll try my best to. I don't think I can reach it without risking screwing up the guitar. That should be in the video, but man, she's beautiful. And that's the cool thing about this profile. That's probably a really good view right there. It shows the headstock. You know, let me get some of this stuff out of the background. Shows the pitch of the headstock, 12 degrees. Typically they go 13 to 14 degrees, and that would be okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but I like the 12 degree. That's a beautiful pitch. And the cool thing about it was when I loosen up the locking nut, um, they're they're fairly close. If it was a 14 degree, it would probably be a little bit better for like tune the guitar up and then lock these down, and it wouldn't risk going a little bit sharp. The bass was going just a little bit sharp, so all I did was just tune it a little bit flat, and then when I tightened it up, it sprung into tune. And then the whole idea about the Floyd Rose, obviously, you come back here with your fine tuners, and then you tweak it. So when you're first stringing up your guitar, you just set your when you're first setting everything up, you want to make certain that your fine tuners are right in the middle, so that you can either back off the tension or increase the tension. That should make perfect sense. And anybody that's ever owned a Floyd Rose, you know what I'm talking about there. But anyway, so fairly close. And I will end the video right there. I can't think of anything else to talk about. I just need to get it finished, and getting it finished now just means getting the pickups in and doing some solder work. And because I've had it set up long enough to know that the neck is not going anywhere. I've got the neck tension set. I've got about a quarter of a turn, reverse turn on the truss rod, meaning it's actually holding it back. So that's perfect. And I'll talk about this briefly. With the double adjustable truss rod, if you put your frets in and they, for some reason, got a little bit too tight, well, that would cause the neck to want to, naturally start bowing back a little bit. And if you didn't have the double adjustable truss rod, that's pretty much game over, because you're never going to get that neck back forward. But with the double adjustable truss rod, you can put forward relief into it by turning it that way. I'll just say clockwise if we're looking at it from down here, and that would put forward relief in it. But if you turn it counterclockwise, meaning if this were like if this were the Allen head wrench, and you turn it this direction until you feel it neutral, well, once I got it to that neutral point, I went about another quarter of a turn, and that was perfect to hold the neck in perfect forward relief. It has a little bit of forward relief in it, but I could flatten it out if James wants a real wicked low action, and he and I will cover that stuff later on. So anyway, it's a lot of it is just you just kind of have to tweak your way to the finish line, and that's why I wanted to get it strung up a few days ago and just really play it, and just work out any bug. I do have a high fret right there, but just right on the corner, and I have not determined whether one is a little bit low or one might be just a little bit high, but I've already covered that in that. I'll cover that in the latter videos, because I don't have my fret rocker here. But if you have a fret buzzing, don't just automatically start sanding off the high fret. It may be that the fret before it is low. So you would step down to that other fret, and I covered this in the last video, and you would start rocking from that one. And if you're rocking from one here and then you're rocking from a one that you skip, well, there's a potential that that fret in the middle is actually low. Okay, so just work your way through that. So, but don't get all crazy sandpaper happy, because you'll end up sanding a flat spot in your fretboard, and you'll get yourself in major trouble. or you'll either have to replace those frets. Okay, so I'm just going to stop talking. And we did do the weight analysis, and the next video will be a finished guitar with the pickups in and ready to plug and play. And I don't have my amps here; they're up in Nashville. But I don't know if I'll be able to go to a local music store. I might try to pull that off and do a sound test with it. But I know James is probably chomping at the bit to receive this guitar as well, because I want to get it shipped to him as well. So anyway, just let me know if you guys have any questions or comments, and I'll go from there. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.